welcome to another video. Today I've got to do a few admin jobs. So first things first being a newsletter for the Sheffield Maker Shop, where sometimes I staff and they also stock some of my goods, and they also do their newsletters and social media. So newsletter first of all, because I really planned to do that earlier in the month, but hey ho, life got in the way. So first job on the agenda is that. Okay, so that's done and out of the way. And I've had a question from one of you guys, and it's a nice one, so I thought I would answer it on the video. And it's from K Victoria, I hope I've pronounced that right. And they ask, lovely vlog and drawings as always, thank you very much. You have drawn a lot of people this past year. Do you already feel confident drawing them? Is there any other topic that you would like to sketch? Houses, nature, still life? Great question. I love it. I love it. I'm going to go and get another cuppa and let's answer it. So yeah, I have actually gained a lot of confidence this year. And yeah, especially drawing people. I feel like I always used to struggle drawing people. When I very first got into doing art again as an adult, a good few years ago now, drawing people used to stress me out so much that I made myself the promise that I would do art, but I would never, ever put people in it. And that was my little promise to myself. So I could give myself the freedom to create without the pressure of having to put a person in. I think the reason I used to struggle with people, not that I was, right, this is it, not that I struggle with people. Since I was young, I could always draw people to look like people. When I was at sixth form, I remember drawing a picture of Steven Tyler and Joe Perry from Aerosmith, and it was pretty good, fairly realistic. And I remember bringing it into school, showing my friends, and they were dead impressed. You know, they were dead impressed. One of my friends even asked to take it home so that they could show the people that they lived with, which was nice, and it gave me that sense of accomplishment. But whenever I tried to replicate that and do something as realistic and as detailed, it used to stress me out. And if it didn't turn out right, I wouldn't give it a chance. It'd be right, that's over, I'm rubbish. It was a lot of stress, so I didn't really like it. I didn't like the process of it. I like the process, I like the result, sorry. I like the result of it being good, but the process stressed me out. So years went by without me drawing anyone. I got into landscapes, and whenever I tried to add a person into the landscapes, it used to make it look a bit too, I don't know, childlike, because I was doing realistic landscapes at the time. And yeah, I made myself that promise to say that I wouldn't do any people in my landscapes, just to give myself that freedom. The thing when you're drawing people is that it's very obvious when it's not like that person. So you can draw a mountain, you can draw a tree and a river and a cup and a pencil. And if it kind of looks like it, people will go, oh yeah, that looks kind of like that. But if you try and draw a person and you don't get it right, it can look like a completely different person. If the nose is like a couple of millimeters to the left or right or bigger and smaller, you change that person completely. So that's why I kind of stayed away from drawing people for such a long time. But if you don't know, and many of you will because you've been watching me for a little while now, 2023 was the year I took kind of out. And I didn't take it out as in like a gap year. I was still making money in my small business. I just wasn't making new products. So I took my foot off the making products pedal, because I found out that I was making, the only time I was ever creating was when I was making things to sell. And that's a whole different level of pressure, which is necessary when you're running a business. But I realised I wasn't actually scratching that creative itch for me. So I took a year out, I learned how to sketchbook and how to sketch. And it's all thanks really to Time Sketches, which I learned from the Good Ship Illustration. I mention them all the time, I'm not sponsored. But I learned it from them, and they did a free resource that I found in January, which is why I decided to take the year out, because I found it so early on. The free resource on their website is called The Sketchbooker's Friend, and it's a really short audio guide, well worth a listen to, really opened my eyes. And it's all based around time sketching. They talk you through the process of time sketching. So it's a really good intro into time sketching. And time sketching has really been the key to me opening up and getting looser and more expressive. I think focusing on the time, so basically in time sketching you give yourself a timer to draw things, so you'll draw for 30 seconds or 1 minute or 5 minutes or whatever. But the first one I ever did was a 30-second sketch of my art drawer that I had. I opened my art drawer and drew it, and I fussed so much about the shape of the art drawer that I got none of the content of the draw in my drawing. And it was only 30 seconds, but it really highlighted to me how little I observed and how much I stressed about things that didn't really matter. Another thing I also noticed is that when I am doing messy sketches, something at the beginning anyway, something in me was like, bleh, I don't like that. I didn't like seeing mess. I didn't like seeing my own messy hand. That was a whole other thing, and a whole realisation for me. But the time sketches, the more I did it, the more, because I thought I'll carry on doing time sketches even though I was disappointed with the results, because one thing it highlighted was that I wasn't very good at observing. So I thought, even if I just use this as an observational kind of technique and practice my observational skills, it's bound to be helpful. So I started timing my sketches, and I'd split my page up between in three. So there'd be two little sections at the top and the bottom half at the bottom. And I'd do 30 seconds, 1 minute, 5 minutes. So the top two would be 30 seconds and 1 minute, just a quick sketch. And the bottom half of the page would be 5 minutes. And I did that for a bunch of time. And one thing it did was put a buffer between me and getting disappointed with my end result, because I was timing them, because I was scribbling quickly, just trying to get as much information, like one of those games when you're a kid, you know, the tray game. I don't know what it's actually called, but when you've got some items on a tray and you've got to memorise it, and then someone puts a cover over it and you've got to tell people what was on the tray without seeing what was on the tray. It was improving those kind of skills. So I wasn't necessarily doing it for the end result, I was doing it for my observational skills. But because of that, I wasn't so worried if people saw my sketchbook. I wasn't so worried about it being neat and precious, because my objective was, how much can I get done in this time? It doesn't have to be neat, it's not a finished piece. And that was a revelation to me. I've never really had a place that I could get messy and scribble and sketch before, and that really has been the cornerstone in improving all my drawing. So I don't think it's just improved my people drawing skills, although it definitely has. And one of the reasons is because when I used to do my time sketches, it used to be when I was staffing, well, I still do it, but it was mainly when I was staffing the Sheffield Maker Shop, because there's a cafe right outside. So when I was staffing and it was quiet, I would draw the people in the cafe at such a distance that they did not know that I was drawing them. So it felt really safe. And so I did get a lot of practice drawing people. Some of it worked, some of it didn't, but I was timing my sketches and I was getting so much volume of drawing done because I was doing such quick times, like 30 seconds, 1 minute, 5 minutes, then boom, onto the next one, boom, onto the next one, then boom, onto the next one. I wasn't stopping to kind of make them pretty and beautiful. I was like timing myself, then moving on to the next person. And then I started focusing on one person and trying to do lots of expressions with varying degrees of success. But because by that time, I was used to drawing people really messy. Not drawing people really messy, but I was used to seeing my messy hand, let's put it that way. So I was used to seeing my handwriting version of my drawing in my sketchbook because I was timing my sketches. I didn't have time when I was timing my sketches to think, how am I going to draw this? I just had enough time to go, this is what I'm going to draw. Let's see how much I can get done. So I wasn't thinking about how I was going to draw it. So naturally, my own handwriting version of my drawing came out in my sketchbooks. The more I did, the more I was used to seeing that, the more comfortable I got seeing my own kind of messy, scribbly handwriting version of my drawing. The more I liked it, the more I actually got used to seeing it, the more I was comfortable with it, the less I tried to push against it, and the more I could just relax into my sketchbook. And also helped by the fact that I was timing my sketches, so I could relax into it without worrying about the end result. I wasn't focusing on the end result, I was focusing on the time. But on the flip side, because I was focusing on the time and I was relaxing into it, the end result, as a consequence, got better and better and better. Like, not immediately, but definitely over time. I mean, I've recently done a sketchbook tour for my patrons over on Patreon, and it was a year-long sketchbook tour. All of 2023 we flicked through, and I think you can really tell the improvements from the beginning of the year to the end of the year. That the improvements between each page in each sketchbook aren't noticeable, but you know, you do enough drawings for long enough, it incrementally improves. So then by the end, when you look back to a year ago, you do see improvements. And I think that's really satisfying. It was really satisfying to look through those sketchbooks and see such an improvement in my drawing. And yeah, thank you for noticing, by the way. It's something I'm really proud of. And it has taken me a long time. I mean, I'm 40 now. It's taken me a long time to get used to seeing my own handwriting version of my drawing style, and be comfortable seeing it scribbly and finding something that's like really mine. So before, when I used to sketch, I used to get really inspired by things that I'd seen on Pinterest, on Instagram, on Facebook, whatever else we had back in the day. But one thing that I used to do, I used to compare myself rather than being inspired and then putting it away and focusing on my own drawing style. I was inspired and influenced and comparing my drawing to someone else's. So then I'd always try and tidy up my drawing, or like mould it and shape it into something I think other people would like to see, rather than working on seeing my own mess, my own messy scribbly creations. You might not be a scribbler. I am 100% a scribbler. So when you're doing your own creative practice, if you ever did time sketches, if you followed the same path that I did with your time sketches, you may not see a scribbly mess. I did, because I am naturally a scribbler. My actual handwriting is a scribbly mess. When I was a kid and I would try and write neat like my friends, like Fiona and Louise, they would write so neat and tidy and keep it up consistently through all of their books. And I'd try and do that. I think that looks nice. I'm going to try and write neatly. And then by half a page, I was scribbling away again. My teacher, one of my maths teachers, once said that I had handwriting like a doctor, which means it's very scribbly. And it's the same with my drawing. Doesn't mean that you have to. The thing for me, taking this year to sketch almost every day and not really look at what other people are doing, but more focus on working my weaknesses and working my skills, it's the time that I've spent doing that without looking at other people's work too much that has really helped me develop. And I think it has really worked. But don't go thinking, if you follow the same kind of time sketch things, that you have to be messy and scribbly and all that kind of stuff as well. Don't. You just, basically, I think the key is not thinking about how you're going to do it, just doing it. And time sketches give you that mechanism. They give you the tools to go, I'm not going to think about how I'm going to draw this. I'm not doing this in a particular style. I have 30 seconds just draw. When you've got a timer like that, you don't have time to think about how you're going to do it. You just do it. And the more you do it, the more your own style will come out, whether it's neat, tidy, scribbly, abstract, however it comes out. You'll find those shorthands that your brain will make to help you represent what you're seeing in your sketchbook. And it's practicing those shorthands, getting used to them, tweaking them, I don't know, just working on them over and over again, that will take you down your own little niche. Just like your handwriting is different to everybody else's handwriting. It might be similar. I mean, my handwriting's similar to my dad's and similar to my sister's, but it's not exactly theirs. It's 100% mine. So you might see similarities in your own work, your handwriting version of your drawing with other people's, but if you mainly focus on your own little journey, and I don't mean don't be inspired by other people, because you can't live in a vacuum, but when you're doing your practice, if you kind of try and mute out those voices temporarily while you're doing quick sketchbook practices, and it doesn't have to be the only thing you do. Time sketches doesn't have to be the only thing you do, but I do think it's very useful as a place to start. And to be honest, it's the place that I've stayed. I love time sketches. I love quick sketches. The longer I spend on a drawing piece, the more life gets sucked out of it. It's just something I found. But I do think, yeah, be inspired by other people, go to galleries, see other people's work, but don't get stuck there. Know when it's time to kind of turn your eyes away and go, right, how does my brain interpret what's here? Let's set a timer, 1 minute, let's just give it a go. Then give yourself 5 minutes, 6 minutes, 20 minutes on the same piece. Do a few different options. And the longer you do that, the more your brain will create those shorthands, and it'll be more natural to put your own handwriting version of your drawing in your drawing that you do. As to the other part of that question, is there anything else that I want to kind of focus on? Basically, anything. I am up for drawing anything now. And I think that's come from this whole year, and now I've kind of come in past it, but you know, I'm never going to really come out of my year out, because I've been so enjoying the freedom that's come from getting used to my scribbly hand and having a place where I can be messy and have blob paint around like a 5-year-old. I'm so on board with that as a place to start my work, that I'm probably not going to ever put to bed the things that I've been doing in this year out. I'm just going to add to them. But I think this year I'm becoming comfortable with seeing my own scribbly hand and my own scribbly sketches. I think that has really been the key. I've not necessarily been trying to get better at drawing people or cats or dogs or buildings or whatever. I feel like the real thing that I've worked this year is loosening up and getting used to seeing my own handwriting version of my drawing in my sketchbook. I don't know how else to say it, but I've got used to seeing my scribble. I've got used to being messy, and I've got used to seeing that, and I've got used to not being worried that I'm being messy. So before, I used to worry, if I'm messy, if this isn't right, like when I used to draw people, I had that whole stress that it's got to be right. I mean, it's ridiculous. But I used to think like that, because I used to think, I used to almost be creating for an imaginary person who might one day look over my shoulder in my sketchbook and see me scribbling and making a mess. And what if they think I can't draw? Which is ridiculous. I was making stress for myself based on an imaginary person in the future, which it's no good in the long term. So I think really what this year's taught me is to be comfortable in the mess, comfortable in the process. Every project has a messy middle that you kind of need to get used to before you come through to the other side. So yeah, basically, I'm not necessarily going to focus on any particular thing that I am going to practice drawing. I'm just going to take my sketchbook everywhere. I'm going to continue to take my sketchbook everywhere, like I have been this past year. And I'm just up for drawing anything at the moment. Yeah. And to keep heavily using my big sketchbooks, my big messy sketchbook. So I've got like an A3 sketchbook, and I'm going to keep using that as a place to initiate ideas. And if I don't know what I'm doing one day, if I've got no desire to go out sketching in a cafe or something, I can always get my big sketchbook out, get some paints out, and just blob paints around and play. And yeah, that's what I am looking forward to. That's what I am going to continue to look forward to this year and in the years to come. And I think it's been invaluable getting used to seeing my messy drawings. So if you are feeling like similar to how I was, like right at the beginning, like you were a little bit stuck, you felt under pressure to draw things a certain way, or you feel under pressure to draw things a certain way, or you're worried that all of your work is, I don't know, doesn't represent you, or it's trying to be someone else, or you're scared to make mistakes, why don't you try timing your sketches and using that as a tool to get you to produce more work? Because Ira Glass, I've given you that Ira Glass quote in the past about creative people. Ira Glass basically said that all creative people have a gap between where they are and where they want to be. And the only way that you close that gap is basically by doing a bunch of work, and all creative people feel like that. I'll pop a link down below to the quote. Read it again, and then read it once more. It is a quote that sticks with me. I can't remember it word for word, but every time I read it, it makes me want to cry. It's so validating to know that other people feel like they're not good enough. Basically, Ira Glass says that the thing that got you into the game, into being a creative, is your style. And your style's really good. Your style is always like chef's kiss, mwah, it's always killer. But when you're starting out, or even if you're in the like years into your journey, if you get yourself into a quagmire, and the thing that disappoints you is that your work is not as good as your style, your desire. So your style is always the thing that got you into the game, is what Ira Glass says, is always really good. But sometimes you get stuck, and the thing that disappoints you is that your work isn't as good as you know it can be, or you want it to be, because your stylistic voice inside your head is so good. And the only thing that closes that gap is doing a lot of work. If you get disheartened and you stop, you'll never bridge that gap. But yeah, like I say, go and read the quote. It is so good. It brings tears to my eyes. But timing your sketches is a really good way to bridge that gap, because you're not getting focused on the detail. You're not doing like one sketch a week, really detailed. You're doing, what, 50, 60, 30-second sketches a week. If you take a sketchbook out every day, you could fill a sketchbook, one of these little sketchbooks, a week easily. I mean, you don't have to. Don't put yourself under that kind of pressure. But by doing time sketches, especially the shorter time sketches, you give yourself that mechanism to do lots and lots and lots and lots of work. And it's only by doing lots of work that you start to close that gap. So I hope this has been useful for you. I hope that me rambling for 20 minutes and answering that question has been useful and helpful. If you have any other questions, do get them in the comments, and I save them up for certain days. So if I'm staffing the Sheffield Maker Shop, for example, or if I'm having a like quiet day in the studio, or if I'm doing work like for a project that I can't show you, maybe I'll answer these questions in lieu of you seeing me do creative stuff. So do get them in the comments, and I do read all the comments, so pop them in there. I will see them. I will definitely see them. But I think this is where I'm going to leave this video today. I hope you have found it useful. And like I say, get your questions in the comments if you have anything that you'd like to hear my take on. And I'm going to catch you in the next video. So until then, bye.